My name is Charlotte Chidik, and I am the Career Development Specialist for Business and Communications Pathway. And I work at the Career Services Center, which is a central office. And I'm really excited to do this presentation today. And I have Zach Hanna joining with me today. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, Zach.
Hi guys, my name is Zach Hanna. I am the campus recruiter that covers our Eastern region with Stanley Black & Decker. I have been with the company for almost 4 years now in June, but I graduated from Penn State in 2015 and worked for Dick's Sporting Goods in their corporate office for about a year and a half after graduation, and then went through our sales and marketing development program at Stanley Black & Decker, did the sales coordinator role, which is the first role in the program, and then the market manager role in that program as well. And then almost 2 years ago in April, I joined the recruiting team for the program. So really excited to get to talk to you guys today as well.
Awesome. Thanks for the introduction, Zach. So today we're going to talk to you about virtual career fairs and how to actually work a virtual career fair. It's become increasingly important. Like a few years ago, a year and a half ago, people probably, if you ask them, like they probably didn't even attend a virtual career fair at that point in their lives. So after the COVID-19 pandemic, it's pretty much became the only way to network with professionals and college recruiters who are interested in people with your skill set. So it is particularly important to put your best foot forward. Like I said, the opportunities are very scarce, and it is one of the few ways to kind of network and connect with the employers. And it's essentially an online event, and the catch here is that it's held at a specific time. So you need to check the dates and times, which I will have a slide for that at the end, but you can always check those on Handshake platform as well. And basically, you need to do some prep work to be able to navigate this event successfully. And we'll talk about that in our presentation. So what to expect? So one of the beautiful things about virtual career fairs is that there's no waiting in lines. In the past, when we held the traditional career fairs, the environment was kind of crowded. There were a lot of lines to talk to an employer. It was kind of nerve-wracking to see the other person kind of giving their pitch. You know, it was just a different high-pressure situation. So with the Handshake platform, with this virtual career fair, you will actually have an opportunity, 2 different venues, to be able to network with professionals. And the first thing is maybe you can join their group sessions if the company is hosting one. This is something that you can check on your Handshake platform. And it's a great opportunity for you to join other students and maybe learning more about the company, listening through their presentation, and then asking very good, intelligent questions to set you apart from the other students. And the other thing that you can do is maybe RSVPing for the one-on-one sessions that these companies will be hosting during the day of the career fair. Now, I think the catch and the most important thing with one-on-one sessions is that they're only 10 minutes long. So with them being 10 minutes long, and especially with recruiters and company representatives being booked all day, you may not have the 11th minute if they have another one-on-one session scheduled right after yours. So my question for you, how are you going to prepare, and how are you going to utilize that 10-minute time frame? Are you going to make a good impression? Are you going to impress them, or kind of go off tangents or have a little chit chat, talk, call it a day? So that's basically what we're going to be covering today. But at this point, I'd like to ask you, Zach, what are your thoughts in terms of maybe, I mean, you've been doing these recruiting events for a while, you've interacted with numerous students, maybe a few instances where students kind of wowed you, some best practices that you have observed as an HR professional.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a group session, everybody wants to ask questions and, at the end, like keep it, creating a conversation. But what I've found is some students like to ask really specific questions, that maybe be only tailored to them in group sessions. And I would really try to avoid that, because then it doesn't give everybody else a chance to be a part of that conversation. So I think that's probably my biggest best practice, right? If you're going into a group session, but I think if you're have the opportunity to sign up for a one-on-one session, I really think that would be beneficial to you because you're getting 10 minutes alone with that employer. Like you mentioned before that you're not surrounded by those other students. There's not all that chatter. You're not waiting in line. You're really getting that 10 minutes to talk about yourself and understand why you should be a best fit for that company that you're going to be talking to. So I think the one-on-one sessions are extremely valuable if you have the opportunity to sign up for those.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And you guys, if you have any questions, you can either drop it in the chat box or you can go ahead and ask. I think we really would like to keep this presentation conversational and give you an opportunity to direct those questions, ask those questions directly to Zach too. So, all right, let's move forward. Now, it's really important that you remember to use, I guess last semester, we held a bunch of Zoom sessions to help students with technical difficulties or technical questions. And we had a lot of students joining in through Zoom to basically attend the virtual career fair. So I want to kind of clarify that point for you all. The way you're going to have access to the virtual career fair will be through the Handshake platform. When you log in, if you have RSVP'd for one-on-one sessions or group sessions, it will be literally right in front of your face when you log in. It will show you like the detailed list of how many employers that you have an appointment or that one-on-one session with for that day and the other group sessions. And there will be links associated with the session that will take you to the one-on-one meeting in the Handshake platform. But one of the most important things here is please don't let an incomplete profile deter an employer have a good, productive conversation with you. By that, I mean, sometimes you have a great session and at the end, like maybe at the end of the day, the HR professional may want to look through your profile to see if you have your resume there. They forget what academic year you are. And if you don't indicate on your profile that you're a sophomore or junior, they don't know if you would qualify for an internship, for example. Or if you're a graduating senior, it's important academic year to show that, hey, I'm graduating and I'm looking for a full-time job type of thing. And I kind of want to ask you this, Zach, because in the past when I did this presentation with other recruiters, they indicated how important it is for students to have resumes uploaded on their profiles. And I think hearing from you would be more credible than them hearing from me. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's really important to have those resumes on there and have your profile to complete, because I like to learn a little bit about you before, just to read over your profile a little bit to know who I'm going to be talking with. But after, because I might not be able to get to everybody. I have other representatives that maybe aren't even recruiters that have been in the position that I'm recruiting for, and they don't really know how to use the platform. So it's important for me whenever I'm done to be able to go back and look at those things. If they make little notes that I can just pull your resume off there. Maybe, they really enjoyed their conversation with you, but you didn't send your resume on after that. I can be able to go now, see their notes and pull that off of your profile without them sending it over. So I think it's really important to make sure you have those up and completely fill out that profile.
Perfect. Yeah, I feel validated. Thanks for and not just for the virtual career fairs, but updating the industries that you're interested in, your work authorization, your GPA. I mean, even for just a regular, like a normal time frame, if an employer, a recruiter is looking to fill a position and they do kind of like a resume book search or whatever on Handshake, if your profile is incomplete, you're not going to pop up on that list. But if you have a full kind of completed profile, you may even have messages from recruiters directly sent to you and asking for maybe, 15 minutes kind of meet and greet session or even an interview. Like I've had students have that type of interaction in the past. So always keep it updated. It's very important. It's almost like your LinkedIn profile, very important to keep it updated. And the other thing is that if there are those of you who've never logged into Handshake, the login credentials is basically your WVU ID. Your mixed credentials and password is the same as your STAR login information. So if we don't have any questions, I will move forward to, because I want to get through this logistical stuff as quick as possible to talk about the productive side of this session. But how do you find career fairs on Handshake? Well, first of all, when you log in, on the main page, you'll see literally the upcoming events right in front of your face. But the other way to be able to identify these opportunities is when you log in on the upper left corner, you'll see the events tab. And once you click on that, you'll be able to filter through the career fairs by using the career fair filter. Now, the other thing that you may want to do is that if you kind of have very specific interest in a few employers that you want to get kind of consistent updates from, you can always follow them on Handshake. So whenever they sign up for a virtual workshop, for example, a presentation, some kind of on-campus engagement or a virtual engagement nowadays, you will get notifications about their involvement so that you'll always be up to date about their activity. So do you have anything to add, Zach, or do we have any questions at this point?
No, just to kind of go back what you were saying about filling out the profile. I've had a lot of people that, we can send those messages out to students based off of their, graduation year, their majors, their interests and everything like that. And I've had people who didn't even realize, the position that I'm hiring for was available to them until I sent one of those messages. So I think that just to kind of show why it's important to have that, you could find a job that you didn't even know existed by just getting one of those emails if you have everything filled out.
Perfect, thank you. Now, next up, getting hired. We're gonna now talk about the nitty-gritty details of how to prepare for this thing, right? So it's really important that you put your best foot forward. Given that you only have 10 minutes, you don't wanna waste your initial time where you're gonna create the first impression, right? So before even you kind of sign up for any session, it's important that you find out which employers are attending. So whenever you go to the respective career fair, once you click on that link, it will show you a list of employers who will be attending the fair. So you're gonna have to go through that list and identify, So I'm gonna ask you all to mute yourselves for the time being. And if you have any questions, then you can unmute to direct a question. All right, so like I was saying, it's really important that you identify the employers that are attending so that you can kind of basically come up with a game plan. Okay, at the day of the fair, who am I going to talk to? How will my schedule look like? Because if you have 10-minute blocks, you want to really plan accordingly, right? You want to kind of leave maybe 10, 15 minutes between each session so that if it happens to kind of go over, you don't have to worry about being late to the next session. But the most important thing on the slide, if you're going to take one single thing from this presentation, that would be researching the employers that you will meet. The absolute worst thing you can do at a virtual career fair or any career fair really is walking up to an employer and saying, hey, what do you guys do? You should have already done that research beforehand and maybe go to the company's website, understand what industry they're in, their product line, if they manufacture things, understand the basics of this organization, and even go to their job bulletin to understand what type of openings they have and whether you'd be interested in them. And then kind of identify those things so that you'll have, at the end of that kind of research, you'll have a few good talking points to talk to them in your one-on-one interaction. So what is your experience with this, Zach, the research piece and maybe the things that kind of happened to you in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I had a fair last week where somebody popped on and first thing they said was, what internships do you have? Didn't introduce themselves, didn't no background or anything. And I was just like, hi, my name's Zach. Nice to meet you. What brings you to the career fair today? I did not know how to kind of react to that. So I love to talk to people that have done their research. Maybe you look at a company website for 10, 15 minutes before and find something that really interests you about that organization and lead off with that. Or I'm interested in applying for this job. I'd like to learn more about it versus just saying, what jobs do you have that I would be a fit for? And not doing any research at all. Or maybe you attended a group session. Let me know that. I would love to know if you attended a group session before, and kind of what you learned from that experience, and how, just show that you're genuinely interested in, because, I'm really interested to talk to you. I want to know what made you select, for me, Stanley Black and Decker, with that 10-minute time slot. Why did you sign up to come to me? I would love to know that, versus just you kind of saying who you are, going over all your experiences. Because again, if you fill out your profile, that's something I should be able to look at. I don't want to waste, our 10-minute time slot learning about your past experience and your GPA and everything like that. I would rather learn about, why you would think you would be a good fit for our organization.
Perfect. So that personalization, go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, one of the questions that we hear a lot from students right now is who should talk first? So I think that kind of dovetail with what you mentioned about don't just dive in and give your elevator pitch without giving the recruiter a chance to talk. So how would you tell students how to approach figuring out if the recruiter wants them to initiate the conversation or if the recruiter is going to initiate it themselves?
Yeah, I'm always somebody who I like to initiate the conversation, just say, who I am. I'm a chatty person. I like to know how your day's going, or how the fair's going. I like to keep it light, right? I'm the first person you're talking to, maybe from my organization. I want you to feel comfortable with me. I don't want to intimidate you. I'm somebody who wants to, welcome you and want you to join my company. There's a bunch of other companies for you guys to pick from as well. So I need to kind of sell my company on you, and I want to be friendly. I want to make you comfortable. So I'm the type of person that's going to introduce myself and really then ask what brought you here, and give you the chance to give your pitch after that.
But then again, that's Zach, and there are hundreds of other HR professionals, company representatives, and everybody has a different style. I think the good rule of thumb here is make sure things are natural. Don't make things awkward. So whenever you join a video chat, how would the natural kind of course of things occur in a normal type of environment, right? Like, yes, this is a virtual career fair. Yes, this is a one-on-one session to be able to sell yourself or create the foundation for a networking relationship in the future. But at the same time, it's still a conversation. So when you log in, greet the person, say, how are you doing today? Talk about the weather, make small talk. That's perfectly okay to do so. Don't just jump into your elevator pitch in a mechanical, robotic manner by kind of killing the authenticity of that whole conversation. So I guess my advice at this point is keeping things natural and being yourself, and kind of having that meet and greet before you jump into the elevator pitch piece with the employer. So I think we have a few things on the chat functions there. I'm scared to click on it because my PowerPoint has been.
Yes. So Harriet asked to Zach, what's your favorite type of questions to be asked by students during one-on-one meetings?
Yeah, so for me, I like to be asked, about my past experience. I think mine's a little different than everybody else, right? I recruit for a sales and marketing development program. I went through that program, and now I'm in HR. So just kind of, it allows me to talk about the opportunities within the organization, right? That you're not set on one track with Stanley Black and Decker. You have all of these different opportunities that you can have because, sales, marketing, now recruiting, and I'm not set in a path about sales and marketing now. I can go back and kind of talk about the program that I recruit for that way. I think another one that I really like is, just the company culture. I think it's a great opening question to learn about the organization, because you want to be a fit for that organization as well. And I think learning that from the very beginning will allow you to understand, what am I a good fit, versus going through an entire interview process and realizing, wow, I wasted all that time doing all this prep and I wasn't even a good fit on my end for an organization. So I think those are the two that I like to hear in the virtual career fairs.
Yeah, they're ahead of us. It was in the next slide. So I'm really glad that we already covered this, and we'll put a little bit more emphasis on it later in the presentation. But okay, so let's move forward with the elevator pitch piece. So it's really important that you craft this pitch and practice it very extensively. Given you only have 10 minutes, you'll have probably about 30 to 60 seconds to make a really good first impression. Now, I don't know you. Zach doesn't know you. You may be the greatest kind of professional in the whole world. If you can't sell it, it's not gonna, it's not gonna work. And if you kind of like, this is a high stress situation, and I've seen some people crumble in the past. I saw certain students talk about their hometowns, the number of pets or siblings they had, like these are great icebreakers, kind of conversation openers if you are in a kind of casual, regular meet and greet. But in this situation, the purpose here is pretty clear. Like, I am looking to network with you for potentially, to connect with you in the future, connect with you now to see what type of opportunities it would bring for me in the future. So that's the main goal, because I guarantee you, not a single WVU student will get a job offer after this 10-minute session. It's not the purpose, right? So if the networking is the purpose here, how do you put your best foot forward? What are some of the things that you say within that 30 to 60 seconds to lay the foundation, set the tone for the remainder of the session? Because if it kind of goes awkward within 30 and 60 seconds of the conversation, then the rest will probably go in shambles too. I mean, you can still recover, but chances are it will. And afterwards, why would Zach or I or anybody would get out of their way to help you with their professional endeavors because they're not impressed? So in order to impress, in order to set that kind of solid foundation, you're going to have this pitch, and you're going to start with the introduction. And in the introduction, I'm going to ask you, Zach, what are some of the things that you like to hear from a student, not just for the 10-minute session that we have coming up, but like in general, what are some of the kind of preferred introduction pitches in this elevator pitch?
Like in every aspect that's listed on the slide here?
Just the introduction.
Okay, yeah, for me, name, major, and what year you are is perfect in an introduction to me. I can see your GPA on your resume. I can see all your electives that you have on your resume. Just name, major, and GPA. Again, I want to create that conversation. I want to get as much out of you and learn about you as I can in your experiences, that I can via conversation versus you just kind of spitting them back to me and me trying to remember what you said.
Mm-hmm. So very clear, right? Like name, last name. And I like to repeat my name here, even if I said it like at the beginning when I first logged in, because my name is weird and people don't tend to remember that it's Chala. So I just say, hello, my name is Chala. I want to repeat it for you again. Something like that. It's okay to repeat that, especially if you have an intricate name like I do. And then afterwards, your major, what academic level you are. And then after that, I also liked, because not every HR professional is as proactive as Zach. If they're more reserved, they may never ask you some of those kind of prompting questions that he would. So it's important for you to then indicate your purpose also in the introduction section. Like, I am a sophomore and I'm really interested in building more experiences in the marketing field. Or you can even do, if you do have stories similar to this, like, maybe something like, back when I was a sophomore, I actually attended a presentation by Stanley Black & Decker, and I had an opportunity back then 2 years ago to do more research about your company, and ever since I really want to find an opportunity within your organization. So something like that to kind of set an interesting tone and make the presentation, make the introduction more interesting and engaging.
Yeah, maybe why you chose to pick that company. Maybe just like you said, just a little slip of I did some research and really enjoyed your company culture, and just kind of slip that in at the very beginning, just to let me know that you care too.
Exactly. So you will also understand the style of the human resource, like the company representative that you're dealing with. Like Zach said, he's not that all interested about your past experiences or basically your full resume, because he can always look that up on Handshake, but it's still, for general purposes, it's still important to talk a little bit about what you've done in the past. Again, a brief overview, like the type of internships you held or part-time jobs, anything relevant, by just indicating, not necessarily going into detail of, in my past position, I've done X, Y, and Z, and that's just an interview. You're not in an interview. It's just a kind of quick 10-minute session. So, but the brief overview of what you've done in the past and what you're currently doing. If, let's say, you are I think, Zach, you would like to know if they're a leader of their student organization, or if they've done some volunteer work or anything relevant to, let's say, they're in marketing, and if they held any marketing internships in the past, that would be of an interest to you.
Yep, that's what I was just about to say. Maybe you say what job, if there is a job that specifically interests you in going to that company. I've done this job, and it's really why I'm interested in going into the one that you have as well, and just kind of be able to pair your experiences with the actual job that you're applying or you're interested in applying to.
Exactly. And the other thing here, so your personal and professional goals is great to include in an elevator pitch in general, not maybe in this instance, because you're just getting to know each other and they don't have to know your long-term goals down the road. Like, in 10 years, I like to be a marketing manager. That's too much. You're just getting to know each other, right? Just if you have a purpose, like I like to get an internship in marketing, and I noticed that your company has 3 openings for this summer, and I'd like to ask you a few questions about those positions. Now, you killed 2 birds with 1 stone because you indicated your purpose at the end again, and you ended your pitch with a question. So this is going to be my number 1, the single most important advice on the elevator pitch piece. Always end your pitch with a question. Because I've seen students kind of deliver this highly overly rehearsed robotic elevator pitch in like 1 breath. And then at the end, they kind of go and stop. And then it just becomes a rant, a monologue.
Yeah, and then it's just awkward silence.
Right? Crickets. So don't do that. Instead, try to have a dialogue, a conversation. And the best way to do that is by asking questions, kind of bouncing back and forth, and ending the question, ending the elevator pitch with a question is just, one way to be able to do that. So anything that you want to add, Zach, because you kind of covered the question piece already, but am I missing anything? Do you have anything more to add to it?
I just want to answer Harriet's other question she just put in. I think it's okay that if you don't have those experiences that relate to that company field, right? I went to work for Stanley Black & Decker. I had no power tool experience at all. I had no idea, in college that I would be now recruiting for a position that sells power tools, right? I think that's totally okay. But if you show that you have a passion for marketing or sales or finance in general, be able to talk about that, or show that you're passionate about the organization and why you want to be a part of that company. I think that's an okay way to do it as well if you don't have that experience.
And ways to show that passion is, again, it's going to come from your company research. If in your research you went to the company's website and saw that they do have a very comprehensive education and training program for their newly hired employees, that's a reason to be passionate about the organization. If they are a big organization like Stanley Black & Decker and have an impressive record of like the revenue streams and X, Y, and Z. So those are the type of things that you want to bring rather than the specific experience in that niche area, because as college students, nobody's expecting you have 10 plus years of relevant experience, right? So you're just going to have to work with what you have, and that's more than plenty. Okay, we had another question. It just blinks. I can't see it. So I'm gonna let you.
That was Harriet's second question that he answered.
Okay, perfect.
And if I might add one more thing that I've heard students mention a lot when they're trying to draft questions, and I'm curious Zach's perspective. Sometimes I think students go over a little overboard with the detailed questions they plan on asking. It's almost like a stump the recruiter type thing. They think it makes the recruiter think that they've done their research, but I think for the recruiter, it can come across as a little bit awkward, especially if it's something so technical or so, high level that you wouldn't know. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's something I see students trip up on a lot.
Yeah, I feel like it could come across like that, like asking a question that you already know the answer to, but you just want to see how the recruiter is going to respond. I would avoid those. It should, again, be a conversation versus, hey, look at all this research I did. I'm going to try and stump you on your own company. Because then it's like, oh, I don't really like that. I don't like the way you're acting. So I think for me, right, just that it's absolutely great that you want to learn more about the company, but I don't think it would come off well with I mean, speaking from personal experience, it doesn't come off well, trying to stump a recruiter on something like that. But asking about company culture, maybe you saw an initiative that they're really passionate about and you're passionate about it too, I think is a great way to introduce maybe some of those high, next step questions in there, or save it for an interview if you get that opportunity.
Perfect. So in terms of, before we jump into that, in terms of the questions that you can ask to the recruiter, I do have a few more that I kind of want to, communicate with you all. In my opinion, always ask something like, after this session, what is your preferred method of kind of contact? Like, how can we keep in touch? Would you prefer me to add you on LinkedIn, or can you please share your email if that's your preferred method of future contact, so that you have their contact information and it will come in handy. We'll cover that reason here in a couple of slides, but it's really important you have that contact information to maintain continuity in the conversation. So the other questions you may ask is maybe something like, I've already applied to X, Y, and Z through company's website. What are some of the best practices or recommendations do you have for me to maybe secure an interview? Or in the interview, what is the best practice? So you can ask those nitty-gritty questions if you're really, really interested, after the ones that Zach already indicated, because these are just like, if you have time at the end to make the most, kind of squeeze the juice out of that session type of questions, rather than your go-tos initially. I hope it makes sense. Okay, now, on the day of the fair, obviously, we're still going to emphasize this dressing professionally. Even though it's virtual, it's very important that you dress up in full business professional attire, top to bottom, because you don't know what's going to happen if you need to stand up. Again, things happen. We all saw on YouTube and other, streaming platforms that working from home sometimes goes wrong when you just walk around with kind of forgetting that you are not wearing any pajama pants. So like, be professional. Even though it's virtual, it's still a professional meeting for you to impress the other person, and you have to show up to it as you would for the traditional career fair. So based on, again, past experience, Zach, what are some of the things that you want to add for dressing professionally?
Yeah, I would just make sure dress, like you said, dress professionally. It's that first impression. If I see somebody who isn't dressed to their best, I do take note of it, because I want I want you to treat it like it is a real career fair, because it is. I think it's even way more personal now. Maybe for a group session, right, you could be a little more business casual, but if you want to talk to them one-on-one, talk to them like you would, like you said, at an actual career fair.
And then also, I'm going to let you talk about the quiet spot and neutral background.
Yeah, I really don't want to see your 5 football jerseys you have in your open closet and your fan spinning around. Find a neutral background, because it creates distraction for the recruiter as well. I normally will turn on a blank background or something on mine, so I don't distract you. And you can see my Harry Potter books on my bookshelf right now. But really want you to be engaged and not looking around it on your end too.
Perfect. Yeah, if you do have a laptop, kind of lean against the wall so that the background is neutral with minor distractions, because honestly, the focus should be you and your qualifications, rather than the unmade bed and the open closet. So be wise about these things.
Yeah, especially now, because you're not in in an actual career fair, like in person. You don't have the other distractions around you. So now's really the opportunity to not create any additional ones when there isn't any there.
Exactly. So arriving on time, I mean, we talked about how important it is to set the first impression. And if you arrive late for whatever reason, it just sets a bad, kind of gives a bad taste in their mouth. It's not good practice. So be professional about it. That's why it's super important for you to schedule your sessions with maybe 5 to 10 minutes breaks in between, so that if it kind of goes long, you are not worried about being late to the second session. And maintaining eye contact and active listening. I mean, again, I'm going to let you talk about, Zach. Like, did you have any instances where students just did do interesting things?
Yeah, I mean, I've had students pop into sessions and they'll ask one question and say, I don't really know what I'm supposed to ask, or I don't really know how to do this. And that's totally, totally fine. But I think there's a way to present that than just abruptly saying it. Like, ask for the feedback. If maybe it is your first time going to a career fair, like go through how you would do it and say, hey, this is the first time I've done this. What kind of feedback do you have for me? I've had a lot of interesting people, leaving or getting up to go get water in the middle of a conversation. It's just, it's 10 minutes, own that 10 minutes with that time with that employer, because you don't know if you're going to get them again.
Yep. So definitely maintain that eye contact, even though it's virtual. Just look at the camera. I had students, especially when I have appointments. Again, these are the things you don't necessarily do intentionally. That's why we're talking about these things, to bring your attention to it so that you put your best foot forward. And the other thing is asking questions, but I think we covered this already. Just always come up with that list of questions prior to the career fair or the one-on-one session, because you don't know, like, if you come across someone as Zach, who is proactive and kind of gives you the information without even you kind of extract it from him, that's perfect. But some professionals, they're just difficult, more reserved, and you would have to ask a lot of questions to get more information. So that's why it's important for you to have that list of questions. All right. Now, the day after the career fair, the reason why I kind of asked you guys, or kind of told you guys to ask for their contact information, is because after any type of contact with a campus recruiter or a human resource professional, it's very important for you to send a thank you note or an email, whether it be an interview, a networking function, a career fair. You have to send that thank you, and do it within the first 24 hours of that interaction. It can make it or break it in certain situations, especially, let's say, in an interview situation. If they're down to a few very qualified candidates and one sends a thank you letter, one doesn't, I mean, they're equal. So something needs to tip the scales, and that could be the tipping point. But I'd like to ask you, Zach, how do you feel about thank you letters? And would you agree with me on their importance?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you as well. Really important to send those follow-up emails, and even maybe reference something that to kind of stand out. Reference something that you talked about in the conversation to show me that you paid attention, you are really interested, and are following up with me like you said you would. I there's a lot of candidates that I talk to that say they're going to follow up and then they don't. I also don't like that kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because I've had people sign up for me again, like from a fall fair to a spring fair, and I kind of remember those things, and it's like, well, you didn't follow up with me before, so it kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth too. So if you say, we always say within our company, if you say you're going to do something, do it, and it'll go a long way if you do something like that.
And the other thing is, follow instructions. So if in the conversation, the recruiter told you specifically that they don't want any emails and apply through company's website, do it. Don't email them with your resume if they didn't ask for it. If they specifically made clear that you need to apply through either Handshake or XYZ platform, kind of follow that, because if you don't, that also sets the tone in a very bad manner. What do you think about that, Zach? Like, for example, with Stanley Black & Decker, do you have specific instructions in terms of how you direct students to either apply for positions or follow-ups? What's the kind of procedure?
Yeah, normally for me, I'll tell them to apply online, because they need to, if they're interested in that job, they need to be in our internal system anyway. So if I tell you to apply online, that should be step one. But if I put my email in the the chat box or I tell you my email, that means I really want you to send it over, and I'm going to be proactive to reach out to you after. If I really, really enjoyed a conversation, I want that email. I don't want another company to, to snatch you up from me. So I'm going to be proactive to reach out to you as well. If I'm asking for something, I'm going to, again, follow up on my end to do that.
Mm-hmm. And this is always good practice to, no matter whom you meet at any type of networking event, add them on LinkedIn. Make sure you have a LinkedIn account and always keep them in your LinkedIn, contacts, and foster those connections. So let's say you meet with Zach at the one-on-one session, and then you send thank you letters, connected on LinkedIn, and you are, let's say, a sophomore. So there was no connection, no conversation, nothing for the next 2 years. Come your senior year, you are in the job market looking for a job, reaching out to Zach and be like, hey, remember we met 2 years ago. That's awkward. There are a lot of holidays. So like when COVID-19 first started, started being a thing last year, I was like, okay, this is a good opportunity to check up with check up on people that are in my network that I know in the future might help me. And I send them around like May, June, personalized messages asking how they're doing. And if they, needed anyone to not necessarily anyone, like I'm a counselor, so that's my field. That's why I asked that. Obviously you shouldn't do that in that context, but checking up with them, kind of fostering those relationships throughout is really important, because if you don't do that, it's just going to be awkward when the time comes 2-3 years down the road when you reach out to the person.
Yeah, that actually kind of happened recently. I do sales role plays for WVU students for a sales class. And one of the students, I really, really enjoyed my conversation, right? He did a great job with his role play. And I sent him a connection on LinkedIn. We connected. And then this spring, we opened up our sales internship. He reached out to me, and now he's going to be interning with us this spring just because of that connection that we made.
Yep. Yeah. So if you have a connection, again, holiday season, send them a note, personalized note, just say, happy Christmas, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you're okay. Just check up on them every once in a while. All right. So these are our upcoming events. So all the career fairs, again, these dates, you will have access to them on your Handshake profile as well. So I'm going to leave this up here and then ask you all if you have any questions, because this kind of concludes our presentation. And if you have any questions at this point, we would love to address them. So
there's two in the chat right now. So the first one is, how long do you think thank you letters should be? Short, but with still that connection to something from our session. I would say, yep, that's perfect. I don't need a big, long novel. Again, I'm busy too. So I love the little personalized notes, and again, making that connection, keeping the connection going. We talked a lot about connections tonight, but just something that keeps me fresh in your mind whenever I'm going through all my resumes again after it. And then the second one is, just to clarify, did you mention it was a good idea to provide employers with your contact information at the end of talking with the employers? So for me, I should have your resume available if you have it on Handshake. I could pull your contact information up. So if I'm sending you mine, I would want you to follow up, and then that's another way for me to have your contact information as well. Perfect.
Yes. And yeah, you can always offer it or ask them how they would like to be contacted. Yeah. So having that information will give you insights about how to kind of maintain the conversation afterwards. So.
I had a question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So for the international students, those of us that are going to be in the career fair, how would you, what advice would you give us when we're talking with these employers? And, most times, because I'm a senior, most of the cases with me is when I say I'm international, I can see them look the other way. And I'm trying to tell them that, this OPT, CPT, you can hire me, so for us, and I'm saying that because it's been really bad, they don't hire us as much. But what would you suggest? How can we put ourselves out there?
That's a good question and a challenging one. So Let me go ahead and give my insights, and then we can hear from Zach too. Being an international student myself in the past, I know the challenges that comes with attending that career fair, kind of having that elevator pitch resume, the experience is ready, and nobody being interested in you. Now, it's not necessarily their fault or the company's fault, you know, like there are a lot of hurdles to kind of jump over to be able to hire an international student. But at the same time, the work, actually, the responsibility kind of falls onto you as an international student, because I experienced it myself. If as an HR professional, if as a recruiter, if I'm going to vouch for you, if I'm going to advocate for you in the company, I'd like to know you for a certain period of time, and networking will be very, very big for you. By that, I mean, meet with these employers and then kind of check, again, like I said, foster those relationships and prove over and over again that you're capable and you are proactive. And some companies will still not be able to hire because they have strict policies that says no, you know, you can't hire anybody that will require sponsorship in the future. But those who are more lenient, if they see the spark, if they see that you are proactive, they might advocate for you. But again, for that, they need to know you for a certain period of time. So don't open the conversation with, hey, I need sponsorship. That should not be the first thing into the conversation. That shouldn't even become a thing in this 10-minute session, because it's all about networking, getting to know each other, proving them that you have the skills, the qualifications to be a valued employee. If you can prove that, and if you can maintain that relationship, I mean, that's just how it happened to me. And I know all the international students who had success. It's just all about finding that one connection that will advocate for you so that the company finds some kind of like a loophole or an exception for you in the organization. But
thank you.
Yeah, of course. If you do have individual questions about that, schedule an appointment with me. I'll be more than happy to help you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Thank you.
And what is your take on that, Zach?
Yeah, I feel bad because my company, right, is a company that we don't sponsor international, at least for the program that I specifically recruit for. So, you know, I can't imagine how that feels, and I am sorry. And I too want to be a resource, right? I want to help you prepare for an interview that you have. I still want to be that resource to you. If you make that good impression to me, we should connect, even though I can't ever really hire you. Maybe I go recruit for another company, and at that point I can. Now you've built that connection with that person. So don't just let a connection die, you know, after a 10-minute conversation, because you never know 10, 15 years where somebody will be down the road if it's something you're interested in the future.
Yeah. And in the past, I have connected with recruiters who couldn't hire because of their company's policy. But when you're in HR, when you're in recruiting, you know other people, you know other company representatives who may have flexible policies for sponsorship. And in that case, you may get referred to the other person if you make a good impression on the professional that you network with. So again, it's challenging, it's difficult, I know. So if you need to address those personal issues, just schedule an appointment with me. All righty, any other questions? And I think we had something in the chat.
But it's like kind of in correlation with what we were just talking about. So you said you would never start saying that you're from a different country and you need sponsorship, but I'm from a different country too. So but isn't it natural when you're making a connection with someone to talk about not necessarily, oh, I'm from Norway and all blah, 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 this and that, but to mention that, and also it is a capability that I could speak 2 languages and, you know, and write and, you know what I'm saying, and decent in both. Isn't that something you should mention to like kind of sell you as a worker?
That's a great point. And let me clarify. I didn't say that you should mention you have language skills or you're from a different culture or country. You shouldn't start the conversation with, because this is what happens with a lot of the international students. And I was that person once, because I was just getting ready to graduate and I didn't envision the job market being that brutal. Even with I specifically had an MBA. I had all these like areas of emphasis. I did a lot of internships, like did my best, but the reality was just not, it was brutal. So that's why when I got very desperate, I would just walk up to people, and the first thing that I would ask was, do you provide sponsorship? I'm an international student. Do you provide sponsorship? So don't start your conversation with sponsorship. You can still start with the skills, like the language skills, other abilities, different cultures. Again, especially if it's in a, let's say, a communication department, a culture, like a, let's say culture, like we have talent and culture at the BBU. Maybe the organization also has that kind of department. If you're in HR, if you're going into that, it's important to mention those, cultural differences and insights that you have, but the focus should not be on the sponsorship question or the sponsorship kind of element to it. First, prove to them what you're capable of, what your qualification skills are. Organically, the conversation will either come to that, or they're going to find out on your handshake profile. And if they have a policy, they'll tell you straight up. But if you, like Zach was saying, maintain that good relationship and network with this person, they might make referrals. They might, after they switch positions, if they have the capability to hire you, they might be able to do that. So it's all about networking for international students. I know this from personal experience, and I can talk to you a lot more about it if you schedule an appointment with me. Okay, so it seems we talked a lot about one-on-one sessions. How would you suggest navigating the group sessions? So I'm going to pass this on to you, Zach. So the question is, we talked a lot about the one-on-one sessions. How do you suggest navigating the group sessions is the question.
Yeah, I mean, this group has done a great job tonight, right? Now, talking about questions that pertain really to everybody. That it's not, well, I have this experience and I'm interested in your position. What can you tell me about this now? I think group sessions are great. I mean, when you're talking to a company, learning about the company in general and the different opportunities that they provide. For me, group sessions, whenever I was in college, were always really listening and trying to find one or two companies that I wanted to learn about, that maybe I knew a little bit about, and then find that one thing that either was going to tell me that I was a fit, or maybe I wasn't a fit just from that company in general. And then whenever I would go talk to them at a career fair, say I went to an info session and then went to talk to them at a career fair, I could reference that. I think it's great to be able to kind of pull back from what your past experiences were from those group sessions. I don't know about you guys, what you think.
Yeah, I had a kind of like a thought or a question about that. So one of the things that we've been noticing over the past probably since COVID is that organizations are creating a lot more transparency around their hiring process. And so they're creating videos and posting stuff on YouTube and building out web pages that have a lot more information about what students should expect in the process. I think they're doing this to try to bridge that gap between in-person and virtual recruitment. So I know that a lot of companies are more willing to share that information now than they were before. Would you consider that a good question to ask in a group session, or should that be more of a one-on-one conversation? Like, what should we expect in the in the recruitment process? How many steps do you have? Students that are curious about that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely a good question to ask as well.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And another question in the chat. So I know a lot of this info relates to everyone pursuing a degree. However, what advice would you have to an individual with a few years of experience, professional experience, currently pursuing a graduate degree? So would you like to go ahead and address that, Zach, and then I can add thoughts onto it?
So for me, I get a lot of MBA students talking with that do have a lot of experience. So for me, it's trying to understand what they're trying to look for, because the program that I normally am recruiting for is an entry-level program. So some MBA students who are going back have too much experience for that program. And then it's me trying to figure out, okay, what are you actually looking for? So maybe there is a position, a direct hire position that I don't recruit for, but I could still be a resource for you, answering questions about the company, but maybe I'm not going to be hiring for that position, but me again, just want to be a resource for you and send over your resume and get your resume into the hands of the right people. So I think if you're, pursuing the grad degree, understand if they're, look, because I believe you can see what positions the company is actively recruiting for. If it's not listed on there, go onto their careers page, find a position that you are interested in, and say, I know you're recruiting for this. I'm interested in this position. Could you talk to me about what you're recruiting for and how it might be a fit for this position that I'm looking for? And then kind of let the conversation go from there.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. It's just, if you have experience, it's just a good resume builder. You need to find that good balance though, like Zach was saying. How would that experience fit into your future endeavors? So that's the kind of sweet spot. All right, so do we have any other questions?
Not that I can see.
6:30. Are we all good? Well, okay. If that's the case, this kind of, our presentation concludes here. Thank you so much for joining us. And Zach, thank you so much for spending the time to be with our students today and give them your insights. We do really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to throw my email in the chat for everybody. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can for anyone.
Perfect. Thank you. I will also drop my email there in case you guys needed to schedule a career development appointment with me. There we go. Awesome. So, all right, everybody have a great day. Stay safe and healthy and hope to meet with you in the future presentations.
All right. Yeah. And I put mine in, most of you have my email, put it in the chat as well. Happy to hop on a Zoom. I've been walking through the platform with a lot of students, a lot of you who really haven't figured out which companies you want to talk to. I can do a screen share. I've referred to myself as people's concierge this week because I was just like signing them up for sessions. So feel free to email me as well. And we can get you your agenda built out for Thursday.
Perfect. All right. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.